Good evening. Welcome to another Drama is Life, where we discuss what was, what is, and what could be. And we talk about mental and social topics across the lifespan with the purpose of increasing awareness and decreasing the stigma regarding mental health, particularly in our communities, among the African American communities and faith based communities. So, drama is life. We know drama is an exciting, emotional, and unexpected series of events or set of circumstances, according to the definition. But when we talk about drama is life, and we're going to have that conversation about those exciting, emotional, or unexpected series of events. Tonight's going to be another topic where we have that conversation, but we also going to help you with the topic and give you some resources to be able to help you to move forward or navigate with that. This is not to replace any therapy session. It's not to um, be in place of any professional services that you may be receiving. If you are in need of professional services, please look for a licensed mental health counselor, grief counselor, etc., um, to be able to help you with that. This is to be educationally or to be educational. So thank you for joining. Please make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. I know that you feel like you are getting great information. For those who have been here and continue to come back, thank you for your loyalty. We definitely appreciate you watching us each and every week and listening to our um, vlogcast, if that can be even a word. But we wanted to make sure that other people are also getting that information. So if you know someone that can benefit from this information, please make sure that you share. So, how many people, let's start with these questions, and I want you to please respond in the comments, give me a thumbs up, a like, or you can just say yes in the comments. But how many of you have someone in the family that may be um, needing a little bit of assistance, or maybe even a lot of assistance, where another person in the family is taking care of them, whether that is giving them medicine or they are taking care of them, like, with going to visit them if they're not in their own home, but they may be in an assisted living place. How many of you have that experience or know of a family member or someone that, um, as we would call, is in that role of being a caregiver? So I'll wait just for a moment for you to respond because I do. I do. And as you're doing that, I want you to also welcome to our new space. We are kind of playing around with some new spaces. And so we thank you for joining us in this new space. Again, because unexpected series of events is what trauma is. And so in life, as we talk about this month, and I know we're ending and hope you had a great, great holiday. Hope everybody enjoyed family, food, fun, fellowship, all the things that come along with the great holiday of Thanksgiving. It is one of my favorites, not just because of the food, but because of the family component and just being able to come together and enjoy family. And I did get to enjoy family, so I'm really happy about that. So, with that though, there are some other components that are happening in a lot of people's families. And that is that some people in the family are not well enough to care for themselves fully, whether that be mentally, emotionally, physically. And so there is typically a person that's designated to help them, in their everyday life and their what we call their ADLs, their daily life tasks, right? And so sometimes that can be a parent. If you have a child that may have some physical limitations, mental limitations, or emotional, or what we call neurological as well. There also may be a sibling. That also may be a child. And so when we talk about caregivers, when we say this is another, um, exciting, but sometimes it's not always so exciting. And so we are having a conversation with this month, with it being National Caregivers Awareness Month. But who cares? Who cares if they don't take their medication? Who cares if they're not eating? Who cares if that loved one is not bathing or can't stand on their own? Who cares if they can't walk? Who cares if they can't get to the store or work? So that means they can't pay their bills or their daily utilities or whatever their their what they are, their everyday life things, right? The word is escaping me at the moment, but if they can't pay for those things, who cares? Because a lot of times people will, for those that what they say neurologically or emotionally, physically, um, even mentally, what we call sound. I don't like to use the word normal, but I will say at least stable enough to be able to live on their own, take care of themselves. A lot of times people will go on through their day and not even bring to mind these loved ones that you may, that are needing care. There definitely may be times that you may think about, oh, I wonder how grandma or grandpa's doing, or but if they are needing daily attention and if they're needing hourly, you know, attention, there's somebody who does that. But then who cares? And I know that's not a nice play on words, or maybe not so nice play on words. But when we say who cares, care is the word means carry. It's the root word of carry. So who takes on that responsibility of caring for this loved one, carrying the responsibilities that their medications are filled, or they go to the pharmacy to get them filled, or take them to the doctor and ask the doctor all the questions. Who takes the responsibility of their everyday in and out, up and down activities? Who cares? Now, generally, if it's a child, it's automatically people, it's the parent. So I want to talk to you about not only who cares, but who cares about the caregiver? Because there is someone who is caring for that loved one, and we appreciate them. Thank God for them. And most people who are family oriented would say, if something happens to my child, spouse, sibling, parent, absolutely, I will help take care of them. And most people feel like that in the world, and most people actually are doing that. I want to talk to you about the struggles of being a caregiver. And I'm going to speak to you because I am a caregiver with regards to being in the health profession and caring for other people. But I want to talk to you from people that I've talked to that actually are in the caregiver role of caring for adults and sometimes youth as well that are not able to care for themselves, that may be of age. So, like a teenager or like, 7, 8 and up. That typically, if you had that child, excuse me, they would be able to, dress themselves and those kind of things. But with certain limitations, whether that's medically, mentally, emotionally, etc., they may not be able to. And these people who are the caregivers are the unsung heroes. We have great caregivers, like, in our world that take care of people, firefighters and police officers. And people have controversy about that, but there are some good ones. Um, and we have, nurses, doctors, surgeons, all these, people in the health field that are getting rented away. We have our troops. So people get those accolades and we celebrate them. But these are our silent heroes who are every day taking care of the people that we love and doing it selflessly. And a lot of times alone. And so I'm going to talk to you from the standpoint of a youth who's a caregiver and moving up the generation. So I'm going to talk to you from the standpoint. I've talked to these people, and I will say some people were not comfortable with being on the interview, but I will tell you some of the things that they did share with me. And I'm not going to give names or anything like that. But these are the things that when we talk about the mental health of people and how important it is to care for people that we say we care about, to literally take the responsibility to help the load. And as we learned a couple of months ago, when help, right? Our sign language help. So we take and we literally, as we talk about carry, help me carry this responsibility so that it's not just only on me. And I say that because that is something that a lot of people may be able to resonate with and feel that they carry things, right? We kind of got this load and we carrying it by ourselves. And how long do we watch somebody carry something alone, carry something that we can see that maybe is really hard for them, it's heavy for them, and we do or say nothing about it? So, I want to talk to you a little bit about the struggles of the caregiver and you as the helpers or family members, loved ones of the caregivers who are caring for sometimes maybe your loved ones as well, how you can love on your caregivers this holiday season. And especially, and again, we don't have to wait till December. We can do it all year long. So, some of the things that I'm talking from a youth, because of course I work with adolescents up. But when I'm talking to youth, there are some youth that sometimes people don't consider that they're actually caring for a a parent that's ill, and they may be physically ill or mentally or emotionally ill. And so this child usually would be a child in a child role, and they're usually being the ones being cared for, or and they end up being the caregiver. They're the ones who make sure that mom or dad takes the medication. They're the ones that make sure that mom or dad gets up and goes to work, gets them dressed if they oversleep, or so that they don't oversleep. Make sure the doctor's appointments, and they're scheduling all of this now. This is a youth, so they still have school. They still have their responsibility. They may or may not have friends that they are actively engaged with or hanging out with because they have other responsibilities. It's maybe that their friends or their peers don't have. And so that feeling sometimes, as I've talked to some of them, they feel very alone in that role, alone in the role of I want to go out. And I'll say it in this fun term, but it's not necessarily, and I'm not making fun by any means. But I want to go out and play. I want to go to a movie. I want to be able to somebody call me and say, "Hey, Theresa, you want to go out to dinner? You want to do?" And I say, "Absolutely," and I go, and I can just go. But when you're in the caregiver role, especially as a youth, your peers may not understand, and you may not want to share the personal nature of what's happening in your family, and so they are dealing with that role alone. And again, there may be some family members who are stepping in, but every day, 24-hour, day to day routines of what somebody has to do to take care of this loved one, that's the person that typically lives with them. And so a lot of teenagers that you may not realize, and I say that because I know that they have responsibilities as a student to get their homework done, or taking tests and trying to get ready for college and all the things that they are supposed to get done for their own life, that may not be at the top of their priority list when they may be thinking, did mom or dad take their medication today? Because if they didn't, then there's other consequences that follow with that. Did they eat? I gotta make sure I cook dinner and cook and make sure that people are in bed. If they have siblings, that's even more so of the caregiver role that they are in. And so that dual role of I'm a caregiver, but then when you come and say, I need an extension on my paper's not done, and you don't have some people who are understanding, like some teachers or things like that, that are work bosses, they don't know what's happening and just think that people are slacking off or students are not doing what they're supposed to. There are some students who may absolutely be slacking off, but there are some students who are in the role of a caregiver and their mind is trying to balance. Do I make sure that medication and food and bath is done, or do I write this paper? And that's a real struggle for people. And so that weighs on people's confidence, self-esteem. And yes, it's nice to know that you can have that responsibility and that you're mature enough to do those kind of things, that people trust you. But sometimes you want to take off the role of a caregiver. You want to be cared for. And so those are some of the sentiments and statements that I have heard from youth caregivers. And and those disrespected, they're not saying anything negative about anyone particularly. They're just saying, I love my parents. I love the grandparents, whoever they're taking care of, yet they would like to also still be the youth, or that people would have compassion to the fact that they are in this role, um, and not they asked to be in it either, but they're in it and they are like, I didn't ask for this role. I was placed here and I have the responsibilities. And so I don't think like other peers. I don't think like people that are my age because they may be trying to go to the next football game or do A, B, and C. That's not even on the list of options for me. I'm just trying to have time for homework. I'm trying to have time to go to work so I can help pay for bills because maybe if a parent or grandparent or somebody's on health insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, et cetera, or disability or Social Security, are their checks paying for all the needs of the household? And if you have a teenager who can work, most will, right? Again, who cares? So that's the question tonight. Who cares? Who cares? Who's thinking about this youth that may have this, that not may, but does have these dual roles in their life and expected to uphold all of them at a quality standard? Something's going to tilt unless we help carry, correct? All right. So let's move down the lifespan and talk about the young adult. Still a student, now they're in college. College students who have parents who are ill, parents who need care for whatever reason, or grandparents or siblings. And I've talked to college students who have siblings, parents or people in their household, would say people in their household that need 24-hour care, whether because that was from birth of a medical condition or diagnosis, or there's a mental or emotional. And so, again, they're in the caregiver role as well. Because, and say we have a sibling, say it's that dynamic and it's a sibling, parents are trying to work or do those kind of things. And then the sibling is, I won't say the fallback, but the support of, okay, I need you to do A, B, and C. And so again, the same concerns that this youth as a teenager or even maybe a little younger had, this young adult between 18 and 25, I'll say about young adult, when everybody else may be looking at career and trying to go take care of the, fun and free, let's go out and, go to trips and do all these kind of things. There are concerns or responsibilities that this caregiver that is a student, I mean, again, at college, trying to take care of papers and other responsibilities because it's harder in college than it would be in high school. And I'm working and trying to have relationships, and maybe I'm trying to date, and all these different things that are happening in their life. And so, again, that feeling of loneliness, feelings of frustration show up. So, as I'm talking about this, feel free to jump in and comment on some of the feelings that when you hear these things, what feelings come up for you? Do you feel frustrated if you are this caregiver? Would you feel lonely? What would you feel? And so I want you to type some of those in. Feel free to type some of those into our chat so I can be able to see what some emotions are that will come up if this was you as the caregiver. And again, who cares? Who cares? And so very similar struggles, but now because you've moved a little bit farther down the lifespan or in the lifespan, and you are at that stage of where maybe career is starting to span, if you just graduated college, or people are like, yes, I'm gonna get to go relieve myself and be able to go have a break. And since I got my degree now, I get to go do A, B, and C. And this caregiver, whether it's a sibling or um, a child, may be like, I don't get to do that. I don't get to. I have to consider, right? Um, so we have to make sure that we care. Now let's move to the adult, further along the lifespan. Again, youth adult or young adult can still be a caregiver with that regard, but there's also the adult caregivers. These are the ones that we know, like if, my mom or dad, and I'm an adult, I'm, 30s, 40s, 50s, taking care of siblings, maybe a grandmother, grandfather, or parents. And again, a lot of, medical things can happen to people throughout their life. And so with that, it can be difficult because if you're a family oriented person, you love family. You're not, you want to be able to take care of them. But what happens if you have your own spouse, children, while you're trying to balance taking care of maybe a parent or another sibling? It makes it more complicated if you're again doing all the things, medication. Let me run mom or dad to the doctor. What appointment do you have this time? Well, I'm trying to balance if my children have appointments, and I got to make sure that I got to cook dinner and take dinner over to you while I make sure that my children have dinner, and while I'm going to work, and I got to make sure you're coordinating schedules all over the place. And a lot of times we talk about, as I've talked about as a trauma therapist, that we stop listening to the messages of our system. We don't even hear them anymore because we're so on autopilot. I have to get all these things done. I have to make sure this appointment is done. And I got to ask the doctor all these questions so I can make sure that mom or dad's getting all the right medication, right treatment. I got to complain about this because this medication is not really working right. I got to make sure this food is not settling well with their stomach and it's mixing with the medication. All these things. All these things. And so who cares? But who cares, right? I mean, we have people that are doing, wonderful things in the world and we are celebrating them and we see them. So who cares about this caregiver who is in their everyday life really being a hero, really being compassionate? The things that we say, we want to see random acts of kindness. It's not random for these caregivers. They are actually acting out kindness every single day, selflessly in their lives. And not that they're looking for thanks, but how often do we say thank you? How often are we taking, as Thanksgiving just passed, baskets to them so that they don't have to cook? This is going to be a holiday that we relieve you. And I say that because the stress, I'm going to share a little bit of some of the things that I've heard. And I have family members who are caregivers. I have, friends and loved ones who are caregivers. And so sometimes I get concerned, right? When it comes up in my mind, I'm not saying it's always on my mind, but when it comes up in my mind, I'm definitely want to check, how are you doing? I know everybody's going to ask you, how is so and so? Because you're taking care of so and so. How is Uncle so and so, or Auntie so and so, or Grandma, Grandpa? But who cares about you as the caregiver? Who's asking how you're doing? And I said it because I'm a parent, right? And so as a parent, and this is the joke of every parent, if when you walk in with the baby, that everybody's like, hey, baby. Oh, hey, Theresa. It's kind of like you're the afterthought, if you're a thought at all. And people tend to tell you, because again, you're the caregiver at that role, but expected so, right, with the child. It's interesting that even those feelings of like, but I'm still a human being. I mean, yes, I'm a mother, but I would like to be acknowledged and say hello to me. And again, that's people typically don't get too in their feelings about it, but it's kind of this running funny joke, I guess. I don't know if it's necessarily a joke, but it's just this statement that people are aware of. When you have a child, just expect to become invisible. I wonder how many caregivers, not just parents, because I know parents are definitely caregivers, but how many caregivers feel like you're just an afterthought, if a thought at all. You're invisible. We care about grandma, grandpa, sister, brother, whoever you're taking care of. We expect you to be okay. So that can become lonely, as I've talked about. People feel very lonely, isolated, uncared for, and so they feel abandoned a lot of times, um, and not only lonely in their own emotions, and sometimes because you have all kind of, you can get frustrated, you're angry because you're taking care of this person, but you don't want to feel selfish. But sometimes you're angry with what you're missing out on in life. You're angry at the sickness because this person is ill and you want them to be well. You're angry at the behaviors that happen. You're angry at the lack of care from doctors or nurses, or the lack of treatment that's available for whatever the concern may be or the condition may be. You can be angry and frustrated at a lot of things. You can feel confused. confused at where are all those who should be caring about me? Where are all those who said maybe at the beginning that they were going to help with mom or dad and go visit and sit with them, and it ends up that it's just me doing it? What happened to all the people whose hands were supposed to be in the pot, who was supposed to, do the medicine, take the trips? What happened to the help? What happened to the care? Right? What happened to the care you carry? We're carrying this together. What happened to your part of the care? And so when I ask who cares about the caregiver, hopefully your initial response is me. I care. And how can I do a better job of caring for them so that they don't feel like that no one cares? Because that's a horrible place to be, to feel like no one cares. So I'm just going to share a few of them before we end on today. I'm going to share a few things that you can do to help your caregivers. Some ways to say thank you and appreciate them. And yes, we've had Thanksgiving, but these are never outdated, ever outdated. So thank you. Actually, verbalizing a thank you is wonderful, but also actually a letter of thanks. I'm someone that enjoys handwritten letters more than I do cards. I think I would throw away a card. This is just me, not this is not everybody, but I will most likely throw away if I'm starting to pile up on things in the house. I'm trying to get rid of decluttering things. I'll throw away a card, but I'll keep a handwritten letter because handwriting is so personal. People don't do it nowadays, but I say that because a handwritten letter also can help a caregiver when they are in those moments of maybe struggles or frustration, that they can go to that letter and read it. And they always have a record of your thanks, a record of your appreciation. How great would that be to have that, right? To have that thanks from Theresa, that thank you for taking care of mom or dad. I really appreciate you doing A, B, and C when I couldn't be there. And I just want you to know that I appreciate that task. I know it's not easy, whatever your words would be that will come from your heart. And you can also get it in a card. Some people are absolutely card people, and I'm not knocking that by any means. If you are more like I would think a card would say it better than I can say it, then absolutely buy them a card. Because any thought is better than no thought. Any care is better than no care at all. Giving them time to themselves. Again, as I've talked about, from the lifespan of the youth, the young adult, to the middle-aged adult, or and a caregiver. And I say it because again, spouses absolutely are caregivers when their spouse may have a medical condition. And people, of course, you expect that. Of course, you said for better, for worse, sickness and in health. So then, absolutely, you take care of them. But that doesn't mean that this person is not a human being and that they don't want to have some time to themselves, some time to be able to take care of them again, because the system messages that they probably are having, if they have a headache or they have a backache, who's going to hear their complaint? Who's going to care? Who's going to care that they're in pain? Who's going to care when they're sick? As parents, we talk about that and say, well, of course, we take care of the children when they're sick, but what happens when you're sick? Because you still are a parent, you still are a caregiver. Same way for these caregivers who are taking care of loved ones and family members who may have a medical or mental or emotional condition that needs that attention. But what happens when they're hurting and they need time? Who steps in to care? Um, and so, time to themselves, whether that is you're going to come in and say, I'm going to sit with grandpa for the next few hours. You go take a nap or go do whatever you want to do. Whatever it is you want to do, I'm going to sit here. You give me what I need to do, and I'm going to do that. You go to a movie with your friends. You go on a date with your partner. Whatever that is, whatever time to themselves looks like. Sometimes it cannot be with anybody else. It can just be, I just need to get by myself and just go sit and breathe. Absolutely. Be willing to give them that. Because again, as much as we say that we are busy and we don't have time, imagine how much time is not allotted for a caregiver. So it will be really a blessing, I would think, And I said it as a caregiver myself. Absolutely, it's a blessing when someone steps in and says, "Let me take that for you, Theresa." Even at times I may, I'm not saying the caregiver may not be used to that and say, "No, I got it." No, it's okay. I can take care. You tell me what to do, and I can do it. Or even show me, teach, let me sit down with you for a few hours and show me how you do this so that I can give you a break and you feel comfortable enough. Because one of the struggles that a caregiver has is they feel guilty when they need a break or when they take one. That's one of the consensus that I've heard among everyone that I've talked to, that they feel guilty for having their own needs. And that's, everybody has needs, but they feel guilty if they go to take to a movie, or I can't go on a trip because I can't leave my loved one. So it's important that we recognize that. Clean for them. I, I I can't even imagine what great. Well, actually, I do know. Again, when I think about the role of a therapist, a provider, a parent, and all of those caregiver roles, I absolutely. When people say, "What do you want for this?" Clean something. I would love for you to clean a clean house. And people think that's funny. You still try to bring them, some shoes or a dress. No, actually, I need a clean house. Like that would be the best gift ever. So when you're thinking about what can I get this person for Mother's Day or for the holiday, and I really they've got everything. Do they have time? Do they have time? And are you giving them? Is there something that you can give them that would be more valuable than a store bought gift? Maybe if you can't clean their house, you can pay for a service to clean their house so that they don't have to worry about it. So that could be a gift. And then last but not least, as we are rounding up, closing tonight's topic, completing any task for them. Ask them what they want done. And one thing that I thought about would be a meal. Prep a meal. Sometimes people think I'm gonna take dinner to them. As you talk about with the baskets over the holiday that people typically take. But sometimes it may just be lunch. It may be breakfast. It may not be dinner. It may be other foods that they need prepped. Maybe I want to sleep in and not be there in the morning. And so I want you to make me breakfast so I can just sleep in. And mom or dad has breakfast, or sister or brother, or whoever, the aunt or uncle, whoever I'm caring for, has breakfast. And let me encourage for the family members who are not in the 24-hour caregiver role, please give the caregiver some grace. Everything's not going to be perfect, and you may have your opinions and your thoughts about how things should be done. But with all due respect, if you're not the 24-hour caregiver, please graciously share your opinion and offer some help. And I say that because, again, I'm thinking about my own experience as a caregiver. People can have all kind of, and one of the things that I've heard from some people that I've worked with before, people can have all kind of theories about what you should do as a parent, and except until they're the person doing it. So I say again, try to walk a mile in someone else's shoes, and I'm gonna say try to literally do it. So when you say who cares about the caregiver, if you're the one to say I'll care, I'll give time. Consider what it would be like for you if that was you, and the struggles that you may have mentally. And it's important. So I say to you, if you're a caregiver and you're like, I am struggling, I don't have time to myself, I want to say that there is services that we offer. We offer telehealth so that you don't have to leave your premises if you feel like I need to be in the house with my loved one. I can't leave. Then we definitely can offer some telehealth services. And we will work around what you need because we understand that your care is important and we care about you. And we applaud you. I know that may not seem like a lot, but we absolutely applaud every caregiver. You are truly the unsung heroes, and you make the world great because your heart um, is bigger than anybody could ever measure. And a lot of times you don't get the thanks for it. You don't get appreciation for it. So if you don't hear anything else for this holiday season, thank you. Thank you for taking care of our mothers and our fathers. Thank you for taking care of our sisters and our brothers, our aunts and our uncles, our nieces and our nephews, our children, our grandchildren. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And if we can do something to be able to help here at In Time Creative Counseling Services, we will be happy to be able to help. So if you know someone that is doing something for caregivers, particularly this holiday season, please reach out to us. Go to our website at www.intimeccs.com. That's INTIMECCS.com. Hopefully, you will love on a caregiver this holiday season and let them know how much they appreciate it and let them know that you care. Have a great night, you all. See you next time.